Thank you all again for being here for our Thrive Challenge. Before we dive into the meeting with our incredible panelists, I want to take a moment to talk about why we're doing this, why we're gathered here today. We all face so much in our daily lives, especially now. Whether you're thinking globally or you're acting locally, the pressures, the challenges, the opportunities, and the noise can be overwhelming. It's easy to get caught up in the urgency of it all and constantly trying to fix things for other people, to put out fires, and to feel like we always have to be on. But if you think about when you're on an airplane and the flight attendants tell you, in case of emergency, put on your own mask first before assisting others, it sounds counterintuitive, maybe even selfish, but it is absolutely the truth. You cannot effectively help anyone else if you're struggling to breathe yourself. This is the fundamental why behind the Thrive Challenge, behind bringing these specific individuals here together today. It's about giving you and us permission and the practical tools to put your mask on first. It's about understanding yourself, strengthening your own foundation, and equipping yourself to navigate the altitude of life changes from a place of strength, not a place of depletion. Now, today, this isn't just a panel. It's a moment for our communities to come together. It's about mutual enablement and empowerment. The experts that you're here today, they're not just a couple of people that I grabbed. They are excellent examples of people who don't just give for themselves, but give for their community and for the world. They're people that I myself needed during this time of strife and struggle. You'll hear them today talk about finding calm amidst stress, leveraging data for clarity, building strategic resilience, and creating personal roadmaps. But it all circles back to the core idea. You have to empower yourself first. When you thrive, you create ripples. You're better equipped to show up authentically, to contribute meaningfully, and to lift everyone up around you. Each one of our panelists embodies these principles. They're here to share the keys that they found for putting their own masks on, for building the capacity to thrive, and in doing so, enabling and empowering all of us to do the same. I'm exceptionally honored to have them share their wisdom as a part of this collective journey. So, without further ado, let us start with an introduction from each of our panelists.
Thank you so much. I am Dr. Judy Wright. I'm a physician and a wellness and performance strategist, and I help professionals, specifically medical professionals, but I help high achieving professionals to prioritize their well being first so that they can prevent burnout and they can propel their performance and their success in the most sustainable way possible with more ease. And my why for being here is that I myself has experienced bounds of stress working in as a high achiever, working in a high stress environment. I've experienced burnout several times, but my why came in when I became ill, when I was diagnosed with cancer, and realizing that I was on the precipice of another burnout situation without realizing that was what was happening. And as I had time to sit down while I was recovering, and I had time to sit down, I had to ask myself, how did I get there? How did I get there? What was I not doing? Because what I realized is that before we can look at the external world all the time. We can blame work, we can blame other people, but especially if you know that this has happened more than once, how did you get there? Because now you have to look internally and you have to take charge and say, what is it that I can do and I can change? And through doing that work, through doing all of that work, I realized what steps I had to put in place in order to honor myself and my well-being and even, my trajectory, so that instead of feeling like I was just surviving all the time, I could actually move forward and thrive. And so that is my why, because as a physician, I know we live in a healthcare system where we usually take care of people as they're sick, right? Instead of doing what we really want to do is just help you prevent. My why is that I want to help people to not only be successful, because a lot of professionals and high achievers are successful, but how do you get to continue to propel that and perform at a level where you don't feel like you're having to sacrifice all the time, and that you don't get to the point where you are burnt out. We're here about prevention, and that means taking charge. You can't depend on other people to do it for you. Taking charge of how you get to do that. And so that's my why. I am so happy to be here with all of you and looking forward to talking to you more.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and good to be here with everybody today. A little bit about me, background. Born and raised in Atlanta, so I got to give a shout out to everybody in Atlanta because there are too many people that came to Atlanta and say they're from Atlanta, but they're not. So y'all stop coming to Atlanta. We're busy down here, all right? But I was a police officer down here in Atlanta for several years to start my professional career. I'd kind of do everything backwards. So I'm, ladies, y'all can judge me. Danny and I, we're gonna be on the same page about doing everything backwards as guys. But I was a police officer first. Then I left that after doing several years of SWAT, narcotics, undercover work. And then jumped into the Army at 28 years old. Like Elizabeth, I'm gonna make Navy Academy grad over there. My dad was a Navy Vietnam vet, and he taught me to do it right. So I joined the Army naturally. So I had to throw a little bit of shade towards Elizabeth over there, but I joined the Army. I went through officer school, infantry school, and ended up catching a deployment with the Green Berets in 2019. During all of that time, I started a couple side hustles that turned into some really good projects, one of which we scaled to 155 countries in 8 months, all while I was on active duty. Got offered a pretty penny for it that we ended up turning down. And about 2 weeks later, I was set to have surgery on my arm. I got massive nerve damage during my deployment with the Green Berets. And in that 2 week period, from having like top of the world, a top performer, obviously doing amazing things in the professional world, I almost became a statistic. I was at the end of the dock with a pistol in my mouth, ready to go, not wanting to go through the surgery, not knowing that my time in uniform was coming to an end. Thankfully, with some divine intervention, that didn't happen. I'm still here, thank goodness. A few years later, went through a healing journey right after that, turned away from the veteran community, as a lot of us do. Kind of had a chip on my shoulder, knew that there was more I wanted to do, could have done, but had a lot of guilt attached to it. We lost 6 out of 50 guys during that 1 year in Afghanistan. And it led me on the journey I'm on now with Advancing the Line for Veterans. Here in Atlanta, we go by ATL Vets, but nationally, we go by Advancing the Line. And our biggest focus is helping veterans and veteran families, that veteran family core being very centric to our mission, but really helping them, the guys and gals that have been in uniform for 15, 20 years, helping them find an equitable transition, both mentally, physically, but also professionally. We really focus on workforce development, entrepreneurship. And my overarching piece of being here is Elizabeth hit me over the back of the head, said I had to be here. And she's a very terrifying 5'0" powerhouse. So when she says I got to be somewhere, no, joking aside, the message about thriving, I think, is huge. I wrote a book called The Legacy of Love, A Journey of Self-Mastery. And one of my greatest discoveries after leading men in combat was that in order to really be a great leader, whether it's in business or life, that you really have to learn how to lead yourself. And that was a difficult journey for me. And a lot of times veterans turn away from that journey. So a lot of what we work on now is focusing on that with the veterans and veteran family members. And obviously this challenge is something that fits so beautifully into that for veterans, for entrepreneurs, for those of us as humans that are going through a tough time and need the motivation to keep going. So overall, thank you for dragging me into it, Elizabeth. You're amazing.
I know you're in the Army, but I love you too, Zach. And I will go next to Latrina.
Oh, I knew you were coming to me next, Liz. First, I'd like to say thank you for giving me the honor of being here with all of these remarkable people that you have chosen to do this Launch and Thrive Challenge with. So thank you so much. My name is Latrina White. I've known Liz for quite a while now, and we've always talked about working together, and I'm just glad she reached out to me and asked me to be a part of this amazing challenge. I am a veteran. I am the spouse of a retired veteran. I have a couple of amazing children. But one of my why in doing all of this is allowing people to keep generational wealth. We talk about, and the buzzword these days is generational wealth, accumulating generational wealth. We do not talk about how to keep generational wealth. So that is my why. I do not want anyone who has worked 20, 30, 40, 50 years of their life to pass on after they have accumulated maybe 50,000. That's a lot of money for some people. $50,000, $100,000, any amount of money to turn around and leave it, and it is not properly protected. Now, I must say, I am not an attorney. I do not give legal advice. What I do is give you things to think about. So my why is, how do you keep what you have accumulated? How do you pass down? What are the things you need to think about to be able to pass down for your heirs to continue to enjoy it? One of the reasons I got into this business, my father, who was a Vietnam veteran, had initially only 10% disability after being awarded a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart for his endeavors during a Vietnam conflict. And when he got out of the military with his disabilities, and he also had cancer, they only offered him 10%. I went in there and I helped him fight to receive 100%. It took years. It took years before he received his 100%. And then when he did receive his 100%, 2 months later, he passed. That was so unnecessary. However, because I did go in there and we fought that good fight together, my mom is being well taken care of because of his benefits now. His grandchildren are able to receive a few of those benefits as well. And if it was not for us asking those questions, none of that would have been passed down. The things that he earned, nothing would have been passed down to his family members. So my why is to make sure people ask themselves those questions, and people are in a position to not only fight for their loved ones, but to fight for themselves. Because if he had the energy and the mindset to fight earlier as a younger person, he may have been able to enjoy that wealth that he rightfully earned at a much younger age. And maybe it would not have been his grandchildren that would be enjoying the generational benefits that he earned. It may have been his children as well. So my why is, let us have those conversations. Let us not shy away from those conversations, and let us be able to protect the generational wealth that we have earned.
Thank you so much for that, Latria.
Thanks, Elizabeth. My name is Danny Nixon. I am coming to you from a real life perspective. I'm a health and wellness enthusiast, and basically what I've been going through in my life, I want to share with people and show the things that I have done to get myself in a better situation from a health standpoint. Just to brief on something that happened to me last year. I coded 3 times. They counted me out 3 times, but through divine intervention, I'm still here. And at that time, I learned what my purpose in life was, because that was my first time I had suffered from any kind of health problem. I've been living a reckless life, not paying attention to the numbers and everything. So what I want to do, my why is, I want to show people how to look at their life and their life numbers, make better choices. A lot of stuff I went through was because of bad decisions I made. And that's usually the difficult part for people to understand. It's so easy to point fingers at everyone else and say, you did that. But the things I went through, I made the decision. And what became important to me was my family. That was my motivation. Again, another why is, you can't do it for yourself, do it for your family. Because at this day and time, your families need you around. There's a lot going on right now, and you need to be strong, so you can't take for granted these things you're feeling that you're going to keep going on. Some diseases out here don't give you any kind of warning at all. No warning. They just exist. They're not like common colds where you have a runny nose or a sore throat and then the full cold come on. They just happen. And if you've been going to a doctor and he's telling you got diabetes or whatever the case may be, hypertension, cholesterol, and he give you some pills and you go home and just take the pill, but still doing what you're doing, you're not really helping yourself. And it's going to happen. And my wake-up call was a stroke. So, I've been through a lot, and then with my grandchildren and my wife sitting there beside me, one of the things I experienced really hard on me in the hospital was my grandchildren had called in and seen me, and when they first seen me, I was asleep, but when they called in the second time, I was woke, and I never forget hearing my grandson saying, "He's alive," and it kind of woke me up a little bit, and then my wife was there with me as well, and she asked me, and just to see the spirit in her eyes, all those you got significant others know that they love you, but to actually see how much she loved me when she looked in my eyes and asked me. Because I was just laughing and talking with the nurses in the operating room when they walked out. She looked at me and she said, "Look, please don't ever do that to me again." But it wasn't the words that were saying, just looking in her face, in her mouth trembling, that what I had went through had really stirred her. So my purpose is to teach people how to keep control of their health. I know all the challenges you're gonna go through, what I went through myself. I know all the how your willpower get weak and you want to stop the challenge, but I take you on the journey. It's not a destination. It's not like a diet. We're not gonna lose 30 pounds in 20 days. That's not what we're doing here. We're going on a journey. We're gonna not be healthy for 30 days. We're gonna be healthy for a lifetime. And that's the focus. That's why they keep you motivated in doing this, because you don't want to just go to, like I said, get to a goal and stop. Usually what happens with the destination type, then you get to the goal, you stop, you celebrate, and you start doing things that you have been doing again and don't really help you.
Thank you for that, Danny. And now, last but not least, Kay.
And thank you. I was that lady in the room with the trembling lip. I was the wife seeing him being shocked on our bed. I was there when he had the stroke. I had to find something different to do. Myself, I was going through health challenges. I was severely debilitated with joint problems. Come to find out, those same joint problems created a problem on my heart. And we're here in this situation and we're here to share our story because we were able to turn it around. And by using our own information, using our own data, and being able to track and understand how our numbers were being affected by the things that we were doing, we had an opportunity to change our trajectory. So we use the system of tracking our own numbers, and we're here because of it. So we're here to share our story, and our why is because we want to be healthy. We have grandkids that we want to hang around. We have family that we want to support. So all of the stories here are intertwined and bringing us together because our why is different, but we all have the same trajectory. We all have a life to live, and we all need to thrive while we're doing it. So we're glad to be here.
Thank you for that, Kay. So seriously, thank you to everyone that's on this panel for sharing a piece of your story. For me, it hammers home what we all talked about, and about my why. We've all navigated some very real stuff, and we've had to figure out how to put our masks on first. I myself, the why for me is the why are we even doing this panel and with these incredible people? And for me, it comes from a sense of juggling, like trying to handle all of the different missions at once. So the picture for me is trying to balance constant, nonstop demands of being a mom, being a business owner, being a veteran, just being a person, and having to deal with the VA, having to deal with the systems, having to figure out, just like Zach, having to figure out like what exactly is life after service and the things that they don't train you for, the physical, the emotional, the stuff that nobody actually sees and most of us don't even talk about. That's the tough part. All of us experience some type of trauma. Some of us have had it in different ways, and we broke ourselves down and we managed to put ourselves back together only to be shattered by things that we didn't see coming. But during all the missions, whether it's flying, whether it's corporate, whether it's chasing the kids, generally I've always put everyone else first. We just power through, we just keep going, and you keep thinking, push yourself to the limit, run on empty. That's the only way it works. But truthfully, you're balancing a complex fight, a complex operation. Your body, your mind, it is your business, it's your livelihood, and it's not just your livelihood, it's your kids' livelihood, it's your family's livelihood, it's the community that you're the core of. People are dependent on you. For me, I hit that wall and I called out to some of these panelists myself for help, for guidance, even just for a little bit of a reminder that I wasn't by myself. And so that's why we're here. You cannot think that taking care of yourself made you weak. I will never say that taking care of myself has made me weak. Just the fucking opposite. It's straight up wrong. It makes you stronger. It makes you capable. It's about building your foundation, your resilience, and then securing your own spot so that you can help the next person who needs physical, emotional, financial, or business help. So my thing is cyber hygiene. And for me, protecting your online world is putting your mask on. It's a part of making sure when my mask is on, I don't have turbulence. I'm not fighting to close my windows and protect my house just so when the next person, these people included, needs help, I can fly straight through it and I can show up ready. So that's the Thrive Challenge. That's what we're doing here. We're a community trying to figure out how to put our masks on first and together. These panelists, they got the goods, even if they are Army affiliated. They're showing us how to build a foundation from taking care of your headspace to using tech and data the right way to just getting a strategy together so that you can plan for yourself and plan with a community so you don't just have to survive what comes at you right now. You actually thrive. You get empowered, you get enabled, and then you can show up and lift up your community. And that's what's up. That's what we're doing here. That's why we're together. So, as I said, these amazing panelists, thank you for introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about your background. Now, I want to turn to the hard stuff, she says jokingly. And I want each one of you to talk about what piece of the Thrive Challenge you're an expert on. What piece do you want to gift to our audience so that they can take that and use that for themselves? Who would like to start?
I'll jump in because I have like 2 insights from intros, right? Danny, you're a lucky man. My wife would have pulled the plug, brother. Like props for that. And Latrita, I gotta say, I just need you to keep talking. You've got like that sultry voice. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Let's go. Let's go. Joking aside, y'all, one of the biggest things on this, I think the quote unquote expertise is I BS a lot. And I heard Elizabeth drop an F-bomb. I don't know if we're allowed to have bad language.
We're allowed to have bad language. It's who we
Okay.
are.
So I like to bullshit around a lot, y'all, and I think that's something that in the military and law enforcement, right, we took everything so serious and so mission forward, and that's all that mattered. And the divorce rates prove that's not always a good case, right? I'm recently hitched where this one, she would have definitely pulled the plug. She's like, you're worth more afterwards. That life insurance policy and the insurance, she's good to go. But I think that's a big piece is like not taking life so serious, right? We get down on ourselves, especially in entrepreneurship, which is really my passion is building the businesses, helping others build business. I think it's like we just got to be able to laugh about everything. You know, we got to be able to bullshit, talk a little bit of smack, talk about how Army's way better, beat Navy, that type of thing. And then the biggest is like just recognizing the Marine Corps is part of the Navy. You know, like it's a big piece there that we got to recognize. Sorry, Elizabeth. I love that. I love that. Yeah. It's like, can we mute her mic from this side? This is beautiful. No, but I think that's the big thing, right? How do we enjoy life and find something that aligns together? And for me, it became entrepreneurship, helping others launch their businesses, build the businesses, but enjoy like waking up tomorrow and finding a reason to wake up tomorrow. Too often we get stuck in like the corporate grind, and it's like that 9 to 5, and then you wake up, you're like, I don't want to do this again. And I have to say that's not the way I've lived my life since after the uniform. In the uniform, that was something that we woke up, knew what the mission and purpose was, right? After the uniform, I think just in general, as people go through transitions, you don't necessarily know what's the point of waking up tomorrow. Right. So really finding that, honing in on that, and then keeping that in the forefront. And I use my vehicle for that as business and enjoying entrepreneurship and building that aspect. So I think that'd be where I'd bring some knowledge, maybe not expertise, but some knowledge. But I'm an expert bullshitter and smack talker. So if anybody wants to dive into that, we can definitely talk shit about the Marine Corps for sure.
He's not really good at it because, you know, Army, but like also Special Forces. So we don't really expect him to be able to use words well. So I'm just
Not
glad
often.
he's able to. Thank you, Zach. All kidding aside, Zach's one of the few people that I know that took the opportunity not just to stand up and do something for himself, but to build an enterprise out of helping others and not just helping them for his sake, helping them do what they actually dreamed and are passionate about doing. So thank you for that, Zach. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next. So again, I'm Dr. Judy Wright. I appreciated what Zach said about, waking up, ready to go, what I heard was feeling purpose. I come from a bent of, as you prioritize your wellness, finding balance. Now, a lot of people they're like, balance. How are you going to do that? Well, because people think of balance as these two parts of the scale, the two scales that are there. Balance is so much more than that. So when people talk about things like work-life balance, which grinds my gears, right? Right? Because it's this ideology that work and life are two different things. Like work is on the planet Mars and then life is here on Earth. And it's
Preach it,
not.
sister.
It's not. Work is a part of your life, right? So how do you find a way to be able to do that without letting it take over. I love that Zach was talking about working that corporate 9 to 5. I'm still a corporate warrior. I still, work a 9 to 5, right? And I own a business. But the thing is, why I appreciate what he said so much is there came a point where I was like, this ain't it. This is not all I want to do. There's something more. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what that more was because I didn't have time, because I wasn't balanced. All right. I was like, and I said, I know there's something more, but I don't even have time to think about it. I don't even have time to figure it out. Right. Because I was putting all of this on work. Meanwhile, my family, my 2 children, my husband weren't getting the best of me. They weren't getting the best of me. Right. So one of the things when I, got sick, I got treatment and I was recovering. And I said, what went wrong? I realized I had no sense of balance. I wasn't taking care of myself. And most important, I had let my boundaries completely slide off the cliff. Okay. And so I come from that bent where I want to share with people how to go about finding balance. That balance is not just the two scales. I think of balance more like a pie, right? Each slice of the pie is something different, and every side of each slice holds up the other side. And through that, you have balance. It's not just those two scales. And balance looks different for everybody, right? And so I want to challenge the idea that you can't find balance and that balance has to look a certain way. Everything, when in the book that I wrote, Girl, Get Your Life Off the Fault Line, I talk about that balance and everything that goes into it, everything from how we talk to ourselves to how we find our resilience to pursuing passion and to not being scared to pivot if you have to. Something ain't working for you, get out because it's not working and it's causing you not to be able, as Zach said, to get up every day just anxious. No, that's not prioritizing your wellness. And so that is what I want to bring forth here in the Thrive Challenge as we're going along.
I have been myself. What happened for me is just like I said before, living a reckless life and a reckless life. So what I want to do after I had my a little spat with the hospital last year, I kind of found my purpose because for years I was walking around, didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing. I was working a job, doing the regular stuff, buying groceries, but not really having a purpose. So after I come out of the hospital and what I have learned so much, I want to help people understand how important it is to take care of yourself. And again, my favorite phrase is, it's not for yourself, for your family. It's very important. I talk to a lot of people on a daily basis, a lot of men, and they tell me, and I say to them, hey man, don't be a deadbeat dad. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm with my family. I buy my kids food. I buy groceries. I pay the bills and stuff. I said, but your message that you're sending to them, you don't want to be with them. How are you saying that? Because you're not taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of yourself. So that's a message, and I don't want to be here. So, and then some would tell me, well, I don't want to be a burden on my wife and kids. Well, again, your action is telling me something totally different because you're still living that reckless lifestyle. And that's what's going to wind up happening if you don't change it. One of the things I want to do here while on this challenge is teach people how to get on the track of happiness. And it's not that hard. We can do it in a fun way. You don't have to be hard or something you have to focus on every day and change your lifestyle. But I just want to get you on that path. So, because it made a difference in my life. I lost a lot of weight, numbers. I get up feeling good in the morning, ready to go every day. And I just want people to understand how to do that as well.
You got it.
Okay. So even though we had our challenges, we had the opportunity to better understand how those challenges were affecting us and to be able to understand what our numbers were looking like, our heart rate, our resting heart rate, our sleep, our exercise and activity levels. And throughout just getting a better understanding and a baseline of where we were, we could start targeting improvements and things and targets to where we want it to be. My why may have been a little different than Danny's why, but my challenges were also different than Danny's challenges. And when I had my episode, I was doing yoga and dislocated a rib with bad joints. I was falling apart. I got help that day from a chiropractor, but then he said, this isn't going to hold. You're unstable. You need a physical therapist. Well, then I had to get a general practitioner. And they found some things that said, yeah, there might be something going on with your heart as well. Yeah, that's true too. But in the meantime, Danny's going through his struggle. I'm going through mine. And we found ways to support each other. But as we're looking at our numbers, we found ways to encourage each other as well. And in that encouragement came challenge. And ultimately, together, we lost over 100 pounds together. But it comes down to finding what works for you and finding the numbers that make a difference for your life. And sometimes when you affect one number, the others start coming in line. And that's the thing that we really discovered. And that's where our snowball started. So I'm living my absolute best life at the age of 58. I ran my very first 5K. So there is still time. So wherever you are in life, even after a stroke, even after coding, even after being totally debilitated, we're here to share with you how we were able to turn that around and live our best life, even at this age. So if you have a why, you got to chase it. You got to work for it and you got to fight for it. It's that important.
I just like to add to that. There's no one size fit all program. So you got to look at your own needs, what you desire to fix that.
All
Yes,
right,
yes.
Zach, from one Army person to another.
Okay, I'll be nice now.
Okay, from one Army person to another. I mean, I have been married for a long time to a Marine. Yes, Zach. So the
My
conversations.
condolences.
My condolence. Thank you, thank you. I will accept all the condolences.
At
Thank you,
least
sir.
cooking's easy. You just break a box of Crayola open. You're like, here you go, babe.
Hey,
Use them
hey.
crayons.
Everybody
You
needs
feel
counseling.
me? You
Everybody
feel
needs
me?
counseling.
You
Okay?
feel me? You feel me? But you know what? And because of all of this, I know life can be unpredictable, right? Life is unpredictable. And we can reduce stress for ourselves and our family by ensuring that our affairs are well organized. We need to make sure that they are in order because life can come at us fast. And so as I want everybody to know, I'm not an attorney. I'm not an attorney. I've just been in situations where I've had to thrive through the chaos. I had to thrive in spite of the chaos. And I've had to encourage other people to do the same. And I have my own system of doing so. One, do you have a will? I have a checklist. And if anybody has pencil and paper, feel free to write it down. Do you have a will? Do you have a living will? I'm sorry, my glasses are sliding. Do you have an executor or administrator of your estate? And you don't have to have a lot of money. 50,000 or less is still considered a small estate. Nevertheless, it is an estate. Do you have your required documents in place? That is your medical directives, your financial power of attorney, your medical power of attorney. Do you have all of those things in place? And do you even know how to have the talk with your loved ones to ask them about what they have in order? How would they like to live out their golden year? Do you know how to have that talk? Have you given yourself the talk? Have you asked yourself those questions? What am I doing to protect what it is that I've worked so hard over the years to earn? Who knows? How do I do it? Who, where, why, how, when? Have you asked yourself those questions? And so, as I said before, life comes at us fast. It can be very unpredictable. And having those conversations can be very challenging. But having those conversations ahead of time will help simplify your life and it'll help with your mental health. And asking yourself those questions to help yourself first goes back to what Elizabeth has stated earlier. Putting your mask on first before you can help somebody else. But once you do, life can be so much simpler.
But now we're going to break it down a little bit in your areas and tie it into the Thrive Challenge. So we've gone through how each of you brings your specific type of game, your piece of the puzzle for putting the mask on. Now we're just going to switch gears a little bit. Zach and I promise to keep it a little bit clean, but no contracts on that. And again, no one needs to wait for your perfect opening. Whoever feels like answering the question, I want you to just jump on in. I do have questions ready about talking about what's really important to you right now, what you're seeing out there in the world, and then what you're seeing out there in the world, the trends, the challenges, the things that just scream why we need to focus on thriving and helping others. All of that stuff that you talked about earlier. So I'm going to throw a little question out there. And like I said, jump in. Don't be shy. Let's get some energy going. Dr. Judy, feel free to jump in first. If you see a symptom of not thriving in the question, feel free to diagnose away. Danny, Zach, look, don't just let us women do the talking right now. You guys can come up and speak. No guarantees that what you say won't get you reprimanded later. And Zach, you can hurry up and wait if you like, but some branches don't really do it like that.
We like strategy, but
So thank you though, Zach, for that. Thank you so much for that, Lutrita. You, as always, I cannot wait for people to hear you talk about these things because they're so core to some of the things that we should all be aware of and educated on, but it just does not happen. But with that, now we will be breaking into our open discussion and our panel questions. And again, I want everybody to feel free to answer and even ask questions of each other. I will act as a moderator and karate chop or McMap Zach, potentially the treat at this point. Dr. Judy scares me a bit. But I want to encourage Danny to respond, even if Kay gives him a look, and Kay to do the same. So my first question for the panelists are, right now, there's a lot going on in the globe. There's a lot of uncertainty around healthcare, uncertainty around jobs, just a lot of fear. And people are trying to create bubbles. Some people are dealing with the trauma by putting their head down. What are some of the tips or some of the techniques that you would recommend to anyone that's listening or anyone out there to help keep them from having to use the avoidance coping mechanism? And that's the question. What
Yeah,
tips?
you were calling my name out on this one. Look, here's the thing. There is a lot going on in our lives, on an internal, in our homes, on an internal. We have to deal with every day. Family stuff, work stuff, personal stuff. How's our own personal health? And when I say that, people often think just of their physical health, but maybe even their mental health too, right?
mhm,
Just on
Mhm.
a regular day, and
mhm,
then there's the external, all the stuff that may be going on external to our everyday home life, right? There's a lot going on right now. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And we can wake up every morning and in that 24-hour span from 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m., we're now experiencing just this constant information, influx of information that is causing some people, if for nothing else, is causing people to feel overloaded. Whether they agree, disagree, it's a lot of information and it makes you want to sometimes mentally check out. I'm here to tell you that that's okay to have periods of time to do just that. I'm one of those people that don't know because I don't watch the news per se too often. I mean, you can't escape everything because honestly, I mean, phones and things like that. But I'm one of those people that learn what the weather's going to be like the day of. And I figure because I have people in my life that are not like that, if there is a hurricane headed our way, somebody is gonna let me know,
Somebody
right?
gonna tell me. Somebody gonna
Somebody
tell me.
tell me something. So, I watching the news constantly, which I used to do, is just not a thing for me anymore because it just wasn't mentally, emotionally, and I don't mean this just started. I mean, it's been going on for years now. I realized, I grew up in New York City. So, when I moved to the town I live in now and realized there was the crime section was like, a third of one page where I used to be able to wake up, open up the daily news in New York City, and the first half of the newspaper had stuff that was not that great news, right? I realized that that just wasn't for me. So what I would tell people to do is you do have to be aware. It's not good. It is just as stressful not to know anything going on as it is to try to know everything going on. You have to find that balance. What I would implore people to do is find what works for you. If it is, I'll check in midday. Maybe not in the morning. Maybe not go to bed with that in my head, but check in the midday, right? On say what's going on in the world and let that be it, let that be it. I call it like the stock market of news, right? Like anybody that keeps watching the stock market all day, that it'll drive you nuts, especially right now. It'll drive you, it'll drive you bonkers,
Yeah.
right? But you know, pick a time and make it that time and then shut off. The other thing I would tell people to do, don't be afraid to detox yourself. Do a digital detox. Some days you have to say, yeah, no. So I'm not looking at my phone, I'm not looking at social media, I'm not looking at YouTube, I'm not hell's bells unless it's like say somebody that I put a special ringtone in, I'm not answering the phone. And that's okay to have a day or even a weekend like that. Don't be afraid to insulate yourself, but don't insulate yourself so much that you are completely ignorant, because part of taking charge of your life is protecting yourself, and you can't protect yourself if you just keep your head down and not try to know anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, Dr. Judy over here dropping some wisdom. For those watching, I'm a millennial. So, like, we grew up with MySpace. Tom was my best friend back in the day, right? But it was one of those, like, I hate social media these days because it seems like it's always the nonsense. So, to take it from, like, the business owner perspective, really thinking about you have to be on social media, right? You have to be posting, you have to be on content. One of the biggest things I've done to remove, it's like everybody in my world asks me, hey, did you see so and so and blah, blah, blah on the news? Like, you're going to stay informed. And I love what you said about that, Dr. Judy. Somebody's going to tell you if something's happening, right? My mom will call me and tell me, hey, did you see the storm coming in? I'm like, no, what storm? Like, I have no clue what's going on, right? But that's like one of the biggest things I displaced from my business side. If you go on like my Instagram, it's a bunch of business podcast events that I host, but it's all my teams managing that. Like one of the first things I did was hire somebody to manage the social media where I don't have to necessarily be engaged on social media. And then if you look at anything outside of business, it's like the goofy nonsense of like my wife sleeping on the sofa. I put like drooling emojis on her and like cookie crumbs on her shirt. Like it's literally either business or goofy. And if it's the goofy side, that's me posting. If it's the business side, it's my team posting, right? But I think it brings that like human element that's kind of missed on social media and news. And it goes back to like, how do you keep, it kind of all goes back to branding in my head, right? If you meet me in person, you know I'm an asshole and you know I'm going to bullshit with you. I'm going to talk mad shit. And I do the same thing on social media. It's like keeping that type of authenticity, I think, is huge. And for me, it's like defining authenticity, right? If you're just stuck in the news, it's no matter what you look at, it's like doomsday, right? I'm waiting for the zombie apocalypse to start. I'm ready for that because it seems like that's where we're heading every day. So I've got to stay away from it. And it's like if you can get out of that realm, or even in business, you have to be there. But if there's pieces where like you got so negative and it'll drain you, and I think that's like just the biggest energy drain is if you're ingesting all this content that's so serious all the time. How do you get away from that? Because then you're taking it in. For me, the military background, it's like I always took the mission home, which is where the relationships really suffer, right? So if you're in business and you're on social media and you're absorbing all this negativity, that does feed into the personal life, right? And it's like, how do you displace that away from and get in the right mindset where my mission and purpose isn't necessarily, it is world domination in business, but then it's also like, I got to keep my wife fed because she's a hungry girl and I got to make sure she gets a good dinner. So like my mission is really focused on how do I make sure my personal life is really set up for success. That way it feeds better into the professional life.
Exactly. And
Go
I
ahead.
want to add on to that when Judy was talking about, not watching it all the time, but still being knowledgeable about what's going on. Zach's mentioning, the goofy part of it. I notice when I get stressed out and when most of us get stressed out, we forget to breathe. We forget to breathe, especially when there's something that has a grasp on us emotionally. We're not breathing. So I have to tell myself throughout the day when certain information comes into me, I have to ask myself, are you breathing? Take a deep breath, blow that breath out. Do that several times without hyperventilating. And there's different breathing exercises that we can do that we all need to look up. But when we're stressed out, we don't breathe. We never take a full breath. So even now with us all on here, if we just breathe in, you'll feel it between your shoulder blades. As you breathe out, you'll start feeling that to release. So we have to check ourselves even throughout the day, several times throughout the day. Am I breathing? Am I breathing? Are my shoulders down? Checking our posture. Is the shoulders down? Am I breathing? I'll do it in my office. They're like, what are you doing? I say, I am breathing. Did you see the last email that we received? I am breathing. And then we need to learn how to laugh through the chaos. Sometimes the saying, sometimes it's better to laugh to cry. Yes, because when we laugh, we're releasing those feel good hormones. So we actually need to check ourselves with our breathing, our posture, and make sure we're not holding that stuff in. Because I will tell a joke during a horrific conversation sometimes, and some people say it's a coping mechanism. I said, let it be a coping mechanism. At least I know it's not getting stuck in my nervous system. Let it be. So yes, we need to check what our body is going through throughout the day.
Something I've learned over the last few months is we all are fighting a whole lot of anxiety. And I started realizing earlier this year how it was affecting my heart. And even though, I rely on my fitness tracker, I love my Fitbit, but it was obvious, and I was feeling it in my body and how I would wake up, and it was tension that kept happening. And I had an opportunity to learn about cognitive behavioral therapy. And something that we want to share with you is I got a whole new perspective. And the cognitive behavioral therapy is a kind of a thing that you can do for yourself. Take yourself through the process, but it has really given me a whole different perspective on the negative thoughts that pop into my head when I'm having those anxious times. What is that negative thought? And then learning how to identify that thought and give myself grace, and then to change that to a new perspective. That has given me a whole nother set of skills throughout this time that helps me to recognize, oh, that's a negative thought. How can I reframe that? How can I change that into something that I would say to a friend versus beating myself up and staying in that anxious place. So there are tools, and we definitely want to help you to understand what that might look like in your life. But again, everyone has their own challenges, and they're going to be different from everybody else's. So you have to find what's going to work for you.
And the thing that stuck out for me that what Dr. Judy said was detaching yourself from your electronic devices, the computer, your cell phone. It's important to do that. It was affecting my sleep one time, and I would go to bed, but because I'm laying inside the bed reading stuff on my phone, when I put my phone down, my mind's still on that. And when I went to sleep, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. So I got to get up at 6:30. So I'm waking up feeling burnt out. So just completely detaching yourself. And then I had to learn techniques on how to get to sleep, because not getting enough sleep, it also affects your health. And I told you, the health is what I do. So I try to do everything in my power to make sure I'm getting the right amount of sleep, drinking the right amount of water, eating the right foods. So that stuck out at me.
So
Thanks
I
for that.
love there's a lot of good. Sorry, Danny, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you good. I'm sorry. I'm
Okay. I
done.
was going to say there's a lot of good in that first question. I would like to say that whether it's Mr. Strategy over here who's talking about making sure that you understand that it's your life and not just your business, or Dr. Judy who led us straight down the path of like, this is a real deal. This is stuff that we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
All of you spoke very well to understanding that pressure and being actually stole some of my content about the cyber hygiene stuff, talked about how important it is to make sure that your spaces are safe for you, all the way down to Latrita and Kay talking about the things that we need to do in order to make sure we do actually have a plan and that we can stick to the plan. Now, for the audience, I know it sounds like that was a lot. There's a lot of stuff that we're talking about, but I would say it's not about which piece you take. It's about what thing you put into a plan for yourself. And my question to the panelists is there a process that you use? Is there a benefit to land in those processes? Or is it just more paperwork?
I love the more paperwork aspect, because we all know you don't do paperwork these days. All your
Right.
cyberness, it's all digital, right? I think there's got to be a process attached to it, right? And I'll love to hear from everybody else's piece of that, but that's something like the military, and Latrita, maybe you can hit me with that, right? Is like the military had a process for everything. And I think it's taught the science of everything. And that's one of the pieces. The second book I'm writing is the art versus science of leadership. And I think there's a science behind it for sure. But I think there's also times where we get too lost in the process, right? We get too lost in the weeds where I think a lot of times stuff like this that we're talking about becomes very overwhelming, right? And it's like, oh, that's a lot to do. And it's like, make sure you meditate every morning. Make sure you do your gratefulness every morning. Make sure you read 20 pages a day. Make sure you work out. All those things. It sounds like a lot, right? And I do a lot of those things most days, right? Definitely work out every day, but it's one of those, I think, not getting lost in the process, but having like an outline of what it looks like, because I think there's an art to it all, right? And just like with leadership, there's an art to it. I can read a book that the military gives me and say, here's the science behind leading. That's awesome. But if you lose like the humanistic, personal piece of enjoyment behind what you're doing, it's kind of like lost in the sauce, in my opinion, where it's like there's got to be an art to the things that make you better and help you breathe and do those things. Where for me, I had to meditate. Meditating is like the worst thing in the world to me. And it took so long for me to get to a point where I could sit down and sit with myself in silence. And it's like, that's like the worst sound in the world is silence to me. And it's like, it became so deafening. But I found classical music was like that calming piece for me, where I could put on some classical music, throw in my earbuds. And if I was ever going through one of those anxiety moments or PTS moments, classical music and a little bit of breathing, box breathing was my piece. It's like, that helps me work through it. But just sitting there in silence, I couldn't do it. So I needed something that was calming, soothing. I think that's the part, is like, listen to what everybody says about the process they use and find the art in it that works for you and make it your own. Don't just copy and paste what Jocko says or what Goggins says, right? You get lost in that. But really understanding where the art is for yourself, I think, is important.
I actually appreciate it when Zach is quiet, but I
Ouch.
have to agree with him. I have to agree
Yes.
with him. The
Yeah.
silence is exceptionally difficult, especially for those of us that have grown up in an occupation that I call an occupation of service. And I absolutely am waiting, like I'm on the edge of my seat waiting for his book to come out. But I think for me too, part of it is everything around us has been like built to sell to somebody or to sell to us. And the thing that the Marine Corps has taught me is that the tool is just a tool. If you don't have a process, if you don't have a map, you don't know where you're going to end up on the journey, right? So if you have a destination, write it down. If it's too much to write it down, it's about us. I'm at Marine Corps, not Air Force. It's about left foot, right foot. Every day you can get up and step in the right direction, use a checklist, and learn that you can do CBT by yourself, right? It's about figuring out. In the Marine Corps and in aviation, we say know yourself, know your troops, know your job. The yourself part is as important, if not more, than anything else.
It's about learning the process and throwing it out and coming up with one that works for you. That's it.
Even in being healthy, that's a process which I use. That's a three-pronged approach. That's basically, one is, getting your mind right, for the journey. And then I want to show you how to stay motivated along the journey. And at the end, I want to show you how to sustain, to be able to keep it up going forward. So that's a process which I use, because I want you to understand, I know all the human issues that you're going to have, but I can't do this, and I don't want to do this today. I had to do the same thing myself. I've been doing this for a while now, but every day I have to fight with myself when I get ready to go do something, because my brain is trying to tell me my back is hurting or my foot is hurting. And something that Luca said is like, in this journey, you got to decide where you're going, because if you don't know where you're going, how you going to know when you get there?
I think, from my perspective, it's about going with intention, right? What everybody was talking about with Zach, what Latrina were talking about, when Zach talked about the art of it all. You definitely should have a path, but even when we use our GPS, if you go in and you look at the GPS, right, there will be whatever was you set up. Maybe it was the easiest way, or there was a way with less tolls, so you don't have to pay all that money, or it was another way. But there are several ways to get there.
Exactly.
Even as we read books and we have all these chapters in the book, and we all feel inclined to read the book in order, but you don't necessarily have to read the book in order. The book still has a pathway to it, but maybe you're going to read chapter 3 first, because it is you looked at the name of the chapter and you realize, I not only need that, I need that right now. And then maybe you can go back to chapter 1, or maybe you will drop to chapter 5. So all of that is important, to have some intention of where you want to go, but be flexible enough, okay, so that you can benefit your intention? What's your goal? What is it that you are looking to do instead of what everyone else is telling you you have to do? At the end of it all, even when you're talking about your health and your well-being, at the end of it all, you are the lead, the CEO of all of that, and everybody else is there to support you. And so, way too often we give that over to other people. And as Zach and Latrina were saying, sometimes we try to go with other people's path, right? It's good to look at other people's path, but
Yeah.
in the end, you have to build your own.
That's it.
Yeah,
Right? Because they're not you.
right.
Right? Right. So that's amazing. I always knew this was going to be trouble bringing y'all all together. Some of us, speaking all together, some of us have flown solo. You know, me, Latrina, she was like, well, I got stories. We've always
Nice.
been like the lead, right? We're the ones that keep fighting the fight. People come to us for help. But sometimes, most of the time, those of us that are in front, we need help too. And it's way harder than it needs to be when you're doing it by yourself. For me, building community and true, tangible community connections in a real way is absolutely essential. So, my question is, as Zach said, beyond just staying on social media, how do you suggest that people find community or build it for themselves?
Hobbies. What hobbies do you have? You know I have hobbies.
Yeah. She has hobbies.
Well, I will. Yes, I have hobbies.
Don't just stop there. Hang on. What kind of
Yeah.
hobbies? Hang
All
on.
right. Okay.
I think I'm one of her hobbies at this point, but go ahead. Go ahead.
You're on the list of my hobbies. You're on my list. I love to garden. I do. I love to garden. I love to teach people how to garden. I think everybody should know how to garden. And when I say garden, I mean grow food, vegetables, fruits. I love it. I give classes. I give plants away. I have people on a list for me to give the class to, and I haven't even created a class to give. That's how much I enjoy gardening.
Do I need to send you my address?
Yeah, ma'am. Yes. Yes.
Can you
Yes.
come garden for me? Like just grow
Oh,
me?
with the right price,
What would
Zach,
you ask for?
I will come there
That's
and
what you ask
set it
for.
up. Yes, I will.
None
Yes,
of
I
y'all is
will.
cheap. None of y'all is cheap. I'm just gonna say
Okay.
that.
I'm just yeah, okay. Yes, we could put it together. I mean, I have notebooks on what to plant with what, when to plant, and that's just for my garden. But I also teach people how to take the seeds from the food that they eat and start growing plants. So, oh yes, I'm an avid gardener. And because of this, I've created communities. Just now, everybody's like, "Are you going to come?" Yeah, yeah, I will. I sure will. Tell them, Liz, I'll show up.
I said I should say Food for Us is a project where we all know that there's a large homeless veteran population and homeless population in some of our cities, Nashville included, which is where I am, Atlanta included, which is where Zach is. And so for our part, what we're doing right now is a project called Food for Us, where we're trying to teach people, starting with myself, how to grow as much food as we can in our yards, on our walls, in Kentucky Fried Chicken boxes, so that there is something that they can do for themselves. Yeah, Zach, I know. For themselves, just got upset Spike. I set it up for you.
Yeah, stop
So,
all the jokes. Like I'm over here on like
yeah,
a 98% protein diet. So you say KFC, I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'll just go order me some KFC.
yeah, right, yeah. And community. That's what it is.
Community. That's what it is. You reach out to people that have similar interests as yours. Mine's is gardening. But I also found out from networking with people that I work with that there's an organization that crochets and knits and quilts. And whatever they make, they donate it to hospitals and shelters and things. Well, guess what? One of my other hobbies is crocheting. These are professional crocheters. So I am absolutely getting ready to go and introduce myself to this wonderful group because they're in the same building in which I work. And I'm going to go down there and talk with them and create community with them so I can have an additional outlet. And so somebody might say, hey, we're going to do line dancing every Wednesday over at such and such place. I want to learn the new line dances. That sounds like fun. And so I try not to overextend because I am an experienced person. So I pick a couple things that I really can get my teeth into. And gardening for me, is a great way to create community, because who doesn't want to grow their own food right now, especially with the cost of groceries
Oh
going
my
up.
goodness. My goodness.
If I say a bell pepper is well over $1 now. I grew bell peppers a couple years ago and I had so many, and this was plants. I gave away bell pepper plants. So, and it, like I say, does anybody have chickens?
Right.
Can we switch? I will give you vegetables for
And you were
eggs.
for
My
eight.
parents do. My parents have about a dozen of them. They call them buffalo chicken, chicken tender. They named them all.
Oh, Lord have mercy. This is
But
why your parents are my people right there.
see, I will supply you. You need some bell peppers. You need some different type of tomatoes. I'm growing all of that in the back. You need some mint. You need some peppermint, spearmint, cherry. What kind of? You need some chocolate mint. I have some chocolate mint too. You need some of that. We can exchange. We can do a bartering system. But finding people with similar interests, be it painting, be it singing, dancing, gardening, sewing, crocheting, anything that allows you to be able to come together in a safe and productive fashion. You can create a sense of community. Even for me, if a friend of mine I know I haven't heard from in a while, and I talk to you, and you tell me, hey, if I have the means, I'm on my way. I'm on my way to put eyes on you to make sure you're good. You
I can vouch
create
for that.
See, you have to want to create community though. And that's where a lot of people, when they get stuck in their head, they don't want to create community. They don't even want community around. So, but in order to create community, you have to want to community, and you have to allow the community to come in and love on you in whichever way they can within your community.
And I would say, I love what you said. You have to go to places and do the things that are like you so you can find people that are like you. Your community is where you should be, right? And I think one of the things I just want to make sure I amplify that you said for the rest of the group is it doesn't really matter whether you're good at something or not. There's some skill you got that somebody else wants to learn or somebody else wants to share that you should find. Dr. Judy?
That's
Or
what our
Phil?
family did.
I just want to acknowledge for everybody that building community is not the easiest thing. Now you would think it would easier because supposedly we are more connected. Like, digitally, we can be connected to people around the world very easily. Different than when I was little and you used pen pal letters. Zach, I am Gen X. So we use pen pal letters, right? And it would take a while. You'd send a letter, I get a letter back from Japan, that's how we did things, right?
Oh, I thought it was like a stone and you like chiseled some words.
Look at that. And don't forget the hieroglyphics, right? Like, don't forget that. But, I'm a doctor, so there's lots of hieroglyphics to go around. But it's supposed to be easier, but it's not. And for many reasons. So it really takes stepping out of yourself. I can
It
tell you
does.
that I knew that I had community, but I knew it, but didn't know it until I got sick. And I really needed, and then that's when, I had people that were talking about, do you need us to start a food train where we will send orders of food? And I was like, a food? I had never heard of that. Now, I didn't need that because my family came in, but just the fact that you don't realize, your ability. There are people that do want to connect with you. It's just how, maybe they don't want to impose because you seem like you don't want to connect, right? And as somebody who has children who are neurodivergent, who are not very social, and I am consistently not pushing, but trying to encourage them how important it is to have community. I always tell people, support when you're doing all this stuff is very important. And if you don't have built-in support, like good family, good friends, then build support. That could be your therapist. That could be a therapy group. That could be a support group. That could be an interest group, something you're interested in, a book club, this and that. Try to find ways to build community. community, because community can be support when you need it most.
I love
Absolutely.
that. I love that.
Absolutely.
Go
That
ahead,
was
Kay.
one thing that Danny and I did when our daughters graduated from college. They were both fast pitch softball athletes, and that was our community. I'm like, what do I do now? We're not playing ball. We started our own program. And that was what we did for the community, is the same opportunities that our daughters had. We wanted to share that with our own community and create that same opportunity for other young ladies. And that's been a great experience, because even though, we've been in this about 10 years, we're starting, of course, seeing the relationships that these girls have built by being on our softball team and taking that through college and looking out for each other. So in starting our own small community, it has expanded, and these girls have a mind that they want to coach as well. So it's starting somewhere in what you know and the community that you're used to. What can you do to make a difference?
Then I want to say thank you all for that. I will say that I have to give voice to the fact that some of us actually aren't comfortable around people, just like Dr. Judy said. So it's not easy and it is scary. And you shouldn't just assume that the people that you're talking to are actually going to be good for you. And every minute that you spend wasted on someone that your gut says you shouldn't be around, or your experience said, or even if there's just something in the back of your head that says it's not going to be right, don't waste that time. It is absolutely okay. You have permission to go, this is not what I want from a community. And there will always be somewhere else. There's always a third way. So with that, we are coming up to the end of our time. I knew this was going to be a struggle, but I'm actually sad that we don't have more. For each one of our panelists, first, thank you for everything that you've said and everything that you brought to the table. This last question is about you and your journey. Thinking about your missions, your tough spots, your wins, maybe a time the tech didn't work or when the plan went sideways. What is one lesson about thriving you wish you'd known earlier?
It's
I
okay
would
to
have to
accept help.
Good.
It's okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to accept help. What you had mentioned earlier, all of us have most likely helped others. And sometimes the person that's helping others needs help too. And it's okay. It's okay not to always have to be the strong person. It's okay to say, I'm not in a good spot right now. What's not okay is it's okay to visit that. It's not okay to live there. It's okay. It's okay to not be okay. Just don't live there. Acknowledge it. I'm not okay in this moment. It doesn't mean you will never be okay in this moment at this time. It's not okay. I'm not okay. And it's okay. And accept help.
The thing about it is that when you have the opportunity to recognize these are negative thoughts and I'm doing this to myself, that has been my greatest release over the past year or so, is to be able to identify where these negative thoughts are coming from, and then to be able to change that whole conversation with myself. That was such a big improvement for me, and that's what we want to help people to take that walk. It's an important walk to recognize I'm not okay, and to be okay with that, but then to do something different and get out of that place. That's a huge relief for me, and something that we want to definitely share with you all.
It helps you thrive. Really, that helps you thrive.
I
That
think, Dan, I think learning who you are and liking who you are is very important. I think told my wife before when she started taking classes, you have to find out who you are, and then you have to be okay with who you are, regardless of what anybody else thinks. Once you can get there, you can move through life pretty good.
I think on my end, Kay hit it really well about recognizing not being right or something being wrong in the moment. For me, I got mad at everybody, especially during my transition and after my injury and then the surgery that went poorly. I couldn't even tie my own shoes. I was going through a ceremony, had to go through a ceremony, the Class A's, all the prettiness, and couldn't even pin my Bronze Star on my uniform. Couldn't pin all the things I earned in the combat deployment to then receive the awards, right? Because I didn't have the grip and the dexterity, and still can't feel my hand to this day, right? So I got mad about everything. And part of the veteran journey is that we isolate ourselves. And I think it's part of the humanistic journey. We've all touched on that, right? Where it's you get mad at the world, you alienate everybody around you, you get mad at the ones closest and punish the ones closest to you. And it's a little bit of that victim mindset where I didn't have that existential thought of not why is this happening to me, it's why did this happen and how can I change it. I didn't have that mindset originally. And one of the greatest realization points, and it's a little bit harsher on the harsher side, but one of the greatest realization points for me and the first chapter of my book was when I had the thought, finally going through therapy, I had the thought, I am broken. And recognizing I was broken, because I think for a lot of guys where it resonates is like we fix things, right? We're fixers. And for so long, everybody said, "Oh, you're fine. You're going to be good. You're going to be da 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 da." And I felt like everybody was lying to me because I couldn't even tie my damn shoes, right? So I'm like, I'm not fine. Come tie my damn shoes. I can't put my uniform on, right? So I was just getting mad every time somebody said that. And for me, it was that realization of like, oh shit, my head's broken, my mind's broken. That means I can fix it. And it was like that last little bit I needed to go on that journey of healing for me, where instead of isolating, it's like, oh man, there's a problem. There's actually a problem, right? It's that recognition of like, there's actually a problem. A link in the chain's broken, but that means it's fixable. And if we can go on that journey with the realization that it's all fixable, and then you start getting kind of the mission and purpose and the procedure behind how do I fix this thing? And it kind of opens you up to that world of healing and that capability. And for me, that was the biggest part that really shifted in my journey, is like going on that journey of fixing it. And it's a daily journey, right? It's not like you go in, do one curl, and I look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Ryan Reynolds, preferably. You know, it's one of those you got to keep doing more like Mel Gibson in his older age, maybe. Come on, Dr. Judy, you don't laugh that hard, you know?
I'm more of a Christopher Walken myself.
But that's the big thing, right? Is like just awareness of something's awesome, but also take the time to take action on it. Just recognizing it's not enough, and getting help from those around you is amazing, but it takes you taking the first step. And that's the hard.
I love that. I love that, Zach.
I would
Go ahead.
say it's kind of twofold. My younger self would say stop building my life around the expectation of others. And also some of that is built into fear, right? Fear of coming up with our own stuff, fear of the unknown, right? So when I think of fear, right, I don't, at least now, don't see it as a stop sign. And that takes thought, that takes work to get to that part. But don't let the fear stop you. Fear can be a warning. Fear can be okay, all right, let's slow down a bit and let's think this out. Why do we feel this way? What's going on? And when we can get through that, it can help us to really start to be more aware of ourselves and really start to build a life that we not only want to get up every day and live, but one that we can be proud of. So I really would say stop living by others' expectations and really, you're going to feel that fear, but you have to work to start to move through that fear. Having the fear is not the problem. None of us are fearless. None of us are fearless. Having the fear is not the problem. It's how we work through that. Wait, are you fearless, Elizabeth?
Some of us just don't respond the same way other people do.
Right.
We've got the chemicals.
That's true.
Slow uptake on the response. Slow uptake on the response. Zach knows what I'm talking about.
But it's how you work through that and keep moving past that to get to the best version of you.
Yes. And what I do with that is when people reach out to me and they're in that position where they feel fearful and they do not know what next step they need to take, people normally reach out to me and say, hey, this is where I am. Can you assist? And I help them come up with a game plan specifically for them in order for them to continue to move forward.
And I think that is the key, right? Whether you're coaching, facilitating, or just being a listening ear.
Mm-hmm.
The fear portion, I think, is huge. And I think the thing that I'd like to leave people with before I ask y'all your last question, which is our close, is do not forget that sometimes the fear, you won't recognize it as fear because you've practiced it. It will feel like instinct. And until you embrace, like some of the other people said, especially Zach, hate to give credit, but go with it. Once you embrace where you are, you can recognize that when you're responding to people, you are treating them like they are the source of your fear, like they are the source of all of your problems. And just like the panelist said, generally the people that get the biggest punch in the face from that or gut check are the ones that are trying to help you.
Hmm.
They're the ones that are trying to help you. Now I say that, and I will take us to our last question. I want to thank the audience here. It's time to wrap up. I know we probably want to talk more, but not to worry. There are these 4 other sessions, one each week, coming for everyone, and we'll tell you about the Thrive Challenge and the community that we're building. But for everyone watching and listening right now, I want to ask the panelists, you get one final word. Wait, okay, Zach, Latrina, I know y'all can't count, so what I'm going to say is one piece of encouragement, challenge, one action step that you want everybody that's listening to take away from here as goodness to do. Um, Around the horn.
One word? Oof, I definitely can't count. No, I think
You're Army, so I never expected you to follow the rules, so go for it.
never keep moving forward, right? Like that's the biggest piece. When you're on the longest ruck or movement or journey in life, like one step in front of the other, even if it's like a small step, yeah, like you just got to keep moving to get to the end goal.
Ditto for that one. That's it. Ditto. That's my word.
Why you gonna support the arm? Okay, go ahead, Latrina. What's next? Danny, you could step into, sir.
I mean, Zach did a good job.
I'm pretty
I
sure he
mean,
just
he
closed the room. I'm
he
pretty
did a
sure he just closed the whole
yes, he
thing.
did. Zach did a good job, and
Go Army every
go
once in a while.
Army.
Roll back to the set. We still gonna beat
Rule
y'all.
breakers, yes,
Army,
yes.
like yo,
Rule
you
breaker,
not walking in a straight line.
way more than one word. See, I'm still going on.
But
Way more
ain't
than
nobody
one
really y'all in. That's
word.
why y'all got the logistics trained. No, I love it. I love it. And with that, I'm gonna say, do not worry. Those of you that are out there, I know this panel seems like you're like y'all are on TV, y'all look put together, but just like Zach says, even as like one of the most Marine Corps, like what was I, #1 Marine Corps badass, 5 years running.
Yes.
I need help. I need
Mhm.
help, and I'm not afraid to ask for it. I am cautious about who I ask for it. That's why you see the people on
Ex-
this panel.
Exactly.
But find a place. This is your place. Come back to us. Come to our sessions. Pick up a book. Just reach out. The whole point of the Thrive Challenge is not like I'm VBS Cyber. We're a cyber organization, but you know what? This is important for us because it's important for our community. So with that, thank you, Dr. Judy. Thank you, Zach, Latrina, Kay, and Danny. Thank you all who are out there right now listening. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We will be here at least once a week for the next 4 weeks, and that's before we kick off a challenge for y'all. So keep watching. Left foot, right foot. Put your mask on first. Thank you.